All right. So I guess again, I was like, today is National Raspberry Popover Day. Do you guys even know what a raspberry popover is? No? Okay, so I found it's almost like a raspberry muffin, if you will. They're just like skinnier and taller than like a regular muffin would be. It's a taller muffin tin that you put it in, and the top is meant to come up and over, kind of thing. So yeah, raspberry popovers. These are raspberry popovers. So my question was not so much do you like raspberry popovers, but do you like baked goods with raspberries? And I guess the first question would then be, do you like raspberries? Because I find students who don't like raspberries definitely don't even like it in a baked good. So what about you guys, Dagan or Makai or Brett? If I can get an answer from you guys. You like them? Good. What about you, Dagan? And you, Makai? Do you guys like raspberries in your baked goods? You like raspberries? Good. I love raspberries. It's probably one of my favorite fruits, raspberries and blueberries. But if I'm going to do blueberries, I know it's really weird, but I like the mixture of blueberries and lemon. It's kind of weird like that. And actually, lemon works really good with raspberries as well. Dagan, do you like raspberries? Hi, America. We're talking about it's Raspberry Popover Day. So my question was, do you like baked goods with raspberries in them? Hi, Michael. So that was my question: is do you like raspberries in your baked goods? And I'm finding a lot of kids. You do? Good. Hi, Kayla. I'm actually finding a lot of kids who don't like raspberries or even raspberries in their baked goods. So you do? So I was like, oh, okay. I don't know why I felt that that was unusual, but yeah, kind of strange. I know. And yes, now I want raspberry popovers as well because I got that food. We're talking about food. You like them in baked goods? Yeah. Hi, Symphony. We are talking about Raspberry Popover Day and whether or not you like raspberries in your baked goods. See, now, America, I am totally a raspberry. Yeah, I'm a raspberry person, so I will like clean them off and like just eat them like a snack. But I also do that with blueberries and blackberries and stuff like that. So maybe that's why like I like them so much. Do you? So where my dad used to live in Oregon, you could walk along this area and they had wild raspberries and wild blackberries. So literally as you were walking, you could just pick them and eat them. They were so good. When we would go up there, my son would go like an extra walk with Papa, and he'd come back and his whole face would be like stained from eating the blackberries and the raspberries. It was great. All right, guys. So what we're going to be doing today is obviously same standards we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, right? Financial decision making. We're looking at various sources for financial information. We're talking about developing financial planning, talking about savings, credit and debt, lenders, credit reports, etc. So we're doing all of this as we work our way through the can you survive on your own project that we've been working on. But the first thing I want to bring up is we need to complete module 6 of the EverFi Financial Learning or Financial Literacy course. So we're not going to do it in class right now. We're going to do the project, then we'll come back. But so we've already done 1 through 5. So this is module 6, and I've got it kind of pointed out right there. Just like always, you're going to click into it. You're going to work your way through the lesson on higher learning. At the end of the lesson, you're going to take a 10-question assessment. Remember, you need to get 7 out of 10 correct, or 70%. To pass the course, a lot of you guys, I've really strongly suggested you try and go for an 8 or a 9 or 100 if you can, because these are summative grades. All it can do is just help your grade. But once you have taken the assessment, remember, I need that screenshot of your entire computer screen. So I need up at the top where it has the lesson name that goes with the assessment score that you're giving me. And then I need to see your name on this as well. I've had a few kiddos give me the lesson and the score, but no name. And I need your name to make sure that it is your assessment grade that you're turning in. Okay. We'll come back to this when we have a little bit of extra time, but let's talk about, we're going to be doing task 13 and task 14. 13 is all about roommates, and 14 is about renters insurance. So if you have not already done so, I need you guys to open up the Can I Survive on My Own directions page, and then open up your copy of the worksheet that we have been steadily working through since last week. And so we're going to go to the course arc. So task 13, you have a roommate, and the roommate makes less than what you make, okay? Your roommate is working in fast food. They bring home $1,200 a month. How does this affect household budget planning? What happens if they lose their job or get very sick and miss work for 2 weeks? So I have a video that's about 5 minutes long, and it talks about different ways that you and your roommate or roommates can think about how you would split the bills. Because before you actually sign a contract, that's what a lease says. Before you sign that contract, you and whoever it is that you are living with need to come to some type of an agreement on how bills are going to be paid, how they are going to be split before you ever get into that legal obligation. Okay, so I'm going to play the video, and then you guys can be opening, and then we'll talk about what these gentlemen are saying in the video about splitting, and we'll come back and we'll answer task 13 in.
Hey, I'm Alex.
And I'm Philip.
And we teach you what you need to know about being a grown-up.
Because adulting shouldn't suck. If you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to click on that bell so you can get the notifications when we put out some new videos. And the comments below, let us know how many roommates you're going to have.
In this video, we're going to talk about some of the best ways you can pay your bills with roommates. We both had roommates when we moved out for the first time. And with things getting more and more expensive, what feels like every day, having to move out with roommates in order to be able to afford your bills is pretty much a necessity.
When you have roommates, there's a lot to figure out. How much rent each person will pay, what bills each roommate's going to pay, and who's responsible for the chores, and so on. When you have roommates, there's a lot of different ways to pay the bills, and the best way is going to depend on you, your landlord, and your roommates, and the situation you guys are in.
The first thing you want to do is figure out how you're going to split the rent. One of the most common ways to split the rent is based on room size. So for this example, the person with the biggest room is going to pay the largest portion of rent, while the person with the smallest room would pay the least amount of rent.
Another common way to split the rent is based on amenities. Let's say that the master suite is the same size as the other rooms, but it has its own bathroom or a walk-in closet. So in this example, the roommate with the extra amenities would pay the larger portion of rent.
Which makes sense. You can also split the rent based on income. This is where the person that makes the most amount of money each month pays the larger portion of rent. Talking about monthly income can be a sensitive topic even for the closest of friends. But if one of the roommates is making a lot more money each month than the others, maybe they're willing to take on a larger portion of the rent. This method isn't as common amongst friend groups. or roommates, but it's a little more common in relationships. I know if I moved out with some buddies who didn't make as much money as I did, I'm not going to pay more just to pick up the slack. I'd get different roommates.
Yeah.
You know, people who could actually afford to pay their fair share of the bills.
Yeah.
But if I moved out with a girlfriend, you know, that might be a different story.
The last method of splitting rent is by just splitting it evenly across the group. This is going to be the easiest and most common way that roommates split rent because it keeps everybody on an equal playing field.
That's how I always did it with my roommates.
Mm-hmm.
It kept everybody equal. And after you figure out how to split the rent, you need to figure out if your landlord allows separate payments from each person or if they want them all in one lump sum at the exact same time every month.
If your landlord allows separate payments for rent, that's awesome. This can be a great roommate if all your roommates have crazy schedules and they're not in the house together very often. However, separate payments can be hard to track for both the roommates and the landlords.
Sometimes the different places that you rent from are going to have an online portal where each tenant can pay individually. And there's other times that the landlords are going to accept things like Apple Pay or Venmo, Zelle, Samsung Pay, or whatever other digital form of payment. But I wouldn't bank on that being a guarantee. Most landlords haven't caught up to that yet.
If the landlord does accept separate payments, but not from an online platform, they could accept individual checks or money orders, cashier's checks from each individual. I mean, do people even know what checks are or money orders?
Old people.
I don't think I've written a check in like over 5 years.
Yeah, me neither. If the landlord doesn't accept individual payments, then the group of roommates can go create a joint bank account with everybody's name on it, on the account. And then each roommate can deposit their monthly portion of the bills into that account and then have the bills automatically deducted from that account each month.
I mean, this can be a great option for roommates who are long-term or couples, but this isn't the best option because it can complicate things. I mean, if a roommate moves out early or they're not trustworthy, everybody on the account is going to have access to the deposits and the withdrawals from that account. The last thing that you need is somebody to take all of the money for rent and bounce. You think I'm kidding, but it actually happens, especially in relationships where people live together and things go south. You might have a fight that morning, go to work, and come home to an empty apartment and an empty bank account.
It's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, you can just elect a responsible roommate who is responsible for collecting all the rent and money for bills, and then they're the one who takes all that money, pays the landlord from their own personal checking account. And honestly, that's the most common method that people use, right?
Yeah.
Most places don't allow you to split up payments. It's just harder to track for them and you.
All of these methods carry some risk. But when you have roommates, this is something that you're going to have to figure out. For me, we were both able to take our checks to the landlord and pay him at the same time, and they were cool with that. But this isn't always going to be the case.
That's how I did it too, back when I had roommates. Until you're able to afford your own place, that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to be able to split it up or work out some kind of agreement. So, how you decide to pay the bills and split the rent is totally dependent upon you and your situation.
If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. In the comments below, let us know how you plan on splitting.
Okay, so what is something that these gentlemen said that made sense to you? Like, you're moving out and you're possibly, you're going to have a roommate. We'll go with what's on the worksheet. What is something that these gentlemen said that you're like, oh, I never thought about that, or that's a really good idea? What do you guys have? Anything? Because they're talking about paying rent with roommates, and that's what task number 13 is, right? No? Come on, guys. You're going to make me call out on you. Brett, what is something that they talked about? Oh, how to figure out who pays how much, America? Yeah. So did you guys think about that when you looked at task number 13? Because no? Okay, so our question is, you make $2,400. Your roommate makes $1,200, right? How is this going to affect household budgeting? And honestly, what are you paying for? What are you sharing the expenses on? Right? What happens if they lose their job or they get sick and they miss 2 weeks of work, which means they miss an entire paycheck? So one of the things that they talked about is, well, before you ever sign on that dotted line, you need to decide, number one, how much, what can you guys afford? Before you ever go looking, how much can you afford? You might be able to afford more. Your roommate might not. And if you guys decide you're going to do a 50-50 split, you're going to have to bring down that amount, right? Or, maybe, after you figure this out, okay, this is what we can afford. This is where we're going to go look. Make sure it's within your means. Figure out how you're going to do the rent and utilities, because those are all contractual, right? Maybe because I make more money, I decide, I want the master bedroom with the attached bathroom and walk-in closet. So I'm going to pay a little bit more than my other roommate who has a smaller room and the not attached bathroom. You could do something like that. Not everybody goes for that, but it is something you could think of. What about utilities? How are you going to split those? Are you each going to get your own cable or internet? Or are you going to just split it 50-50? And then, maybe you have the generic, utilities for the whole thing, but then you are each responsible for your own food and extras. Okay. And if they lose their job or get sick or miss work, understand you are still responsible to pay those bills. Your name is on those utilities. Your name is on that lease. Your landlord, just because my roommate can't pay, they don't care. If your rent is $1,300 and your roommate can't pay, your landlord's like, your name is still on there. It is $1,300. So that's something you need to think about ahead of time. Maybe have a roommate agreement written up, not to the extreme as Sheldon on, well, we won't get into that one, but maybe you have an agreement written up to cover all possible issues that protects all the different roommates. So those are just some things you need to think about before you guys, leave home. How are you going to pay? What are you going to pay? How are you going to take care of things? Right? Do you guys have any questions or any insights or any thoughts on that? Or anything that you can think of? Oops. All right. So the next task that we have is renter's insurance. So we've got a quick video and then we've got a blog that we're going to look at. And on your document, I know it says 2 and 2, but to give full credit, you've got to give 3 and 3. What are 3 things that are covered by renter's insurance, not homeowners, renter's insurance? And what are 3 things that your renter's insurance does not cover? And then there is a final question on 14 that basically says, do you want to get renter's insurance? Why or why not? And explain in 3 to 4 sentences. Okay. So let's do the video first. And then we'll look at the blog and then we'll do the covered, the not covered, why or why not. Okay.
Details matter. Introducing Grammarly's citations feature.
Most people who own their homes know that they're required by mortgage companies to carry homeowners insurance to protect their property, their possessions, and any injury incurred by visitors. But what about people who are renting or leasing their living space? Renter's insurance is usually not required, but is it a good idea? Even if you're just starting out or living in a place for a year, getting a renter's insurance policy could be a smart investment. You may not think you've got anything of great value, but you probably do. More than you could comfortably afford to replace in the event of a bad burglary or, say, a fire. The average annual renter's insurance premium in the US is only $188, or a little more than $15 a month. Because renter's insurance is usually cheap, it's a smart investment. Think of the possible alternative, which would be paying out of pocket to replace everything that could be damaged or stolen. Your jewelry, flat screen TV, computer, furniture, clothing, and so on. And a landlord's own home insurance policy won't pay for your living expenses while the building is under repair either. Renter's insurance does. No matter how careful you may be with your own space, you can't control your neighbors. They can leave your security gates open, buzz strangers into your building, or fall asleep with a cigarette in hand and start a serious fire. To cover damage to your property in one of these events, you need to have your own renter's insurance. One of the key components of understanding how renter's insurance works is figuring out what it does and doesn't cover. The basic principle is that your landlord's insurance covers the building and your renter's insurance covers the stuff inside. But there are some exceptions as to when coverage applies. You can buy renter's insurance without taking stock of everything you own, but you'll get the best coverage if you know exactly what you're covering and how much it's worth. Compiling a home inventory can help ensure that your policy covers the value of your belongings, so you avoid a gap in coverage. Plus, in the event that you do need to make a claim, the home inventory can help your insurance company move ahead with the payout, ensuring your renter's insurance policy works fast for you. Renter's insurance provides financial reimbursement to cover your lost or damaged possessions as a result of fire, theft, or vandalism. It also covers your liability in the event that your guest is injured on the premises. Whether the renter's insurance or the landlord's insurance pays for the costs associated with the injury will depend on the circumstances of the incident, the location on the premises where the injury occurs, and who's at fault. Renter's insurance can also provide compensation for alternative living arrangements in the event that your rental unit or rented home becomes uninhabitable due to storm damage or an apartment fire. Renter's insurance will help to pay your costs if you suffer a loss, such as a burglary. The amount of compensation you'll receive depends on the type of loss and the amount of coverage you have in place. Certain items such as jewelry, collectibles, or other valuable items may have a value limit or require additional insurance coverage to provide full coverage for loss, theft, or damage. You'll also be responsible for a deductible, which is an out-of-pocket expense. Make sure you know what your deductibles for different events are when you sign up for renter's insurance. You can buy actual cash value coverage for your personal property, or you can buy replacement cost coverage for your personal possessions. A policy that pays replacement cost pays the cost of repairing or replacing the item with no depreciation factored in. So a replacement cost policy would give you money to replace the laptop outright, not just an older version of that laptop. Replacement cost policies can be more expensive because they pay out more in the event of the claim. A policy that pays actual cash value will pay you what the item is worth today. So, if you purchased a laptop 3 years ago and it got stolen today, you would get a check for what that laptop would be worth today, not what you originally paid for it. In the event that a visitor to your home, condo, or apartment is severely injured, that person can file a claim with your insurance company, and your insurer will address the claim. This way you might avoid being sued and incurring a great personal cost due to a visitor's injury. One perk of renter's insurance is that your stuff remains covered even when you take it with you outside your home. So if someone steals all of your luggage when you're traveling, your renter's insurance policy may offer coverage for your possessions. It's important to pay attention to what your policy covers, especially when it comes to higher ticket items, items you use for work, and items owned by roommates. Most renters' insurance policies only cover the property of the renters listed on the policy. Roommates who aren't listed on the policy aren't covered. Some landlords will require you to have renter's insurance before you sign a lease, or to buy it within a certain time period. But usually, it's your call whether you get renter's insurance or not. If renter's insurance is optional, ask yourself whether you could afford to replace all your possessions if they were lost, damaged, or destroyed. If the answer is no, renter's insurance is a smart buy. If your worldly possessions amount to a futon, a coffee maker, and a toothbrush, you probably don't need renter's insurance. But if you have high-ticket items like a laptop, television, or gaming consoles, you may find that renter's insurance is a good investment.
The thing that's
All right, so that was the video, and then we have the blog here from Lemonade, and they talk about the things that are covered. So as a renter, think of it as things that are covered that you own, right? So personal property, if it's ever damaged or stolen, right? That's a pretty standard thing. And it could be stolen in theft, it could be damaged because of a water leak, or there's a fire, possibility of an act of God, like a hurricane whips to it. Not that we would get one here, but you see where I'm going with this. So if your personal property is ever stolen or damaged, your renter's insurance would cover the cost of those items. Okay. You also have liability coverage against lawsuits from accidents that happen in your home, so that if somebody, falls or something happens within your home, not as the homeowner, but as the renter, you can be covered from those issues. Somebody gets hurt, your renter's insurance can help pay the medical expenses. So that could be emergency medical expenses, personal liability damages, theft or damage of personal property. So those three items is where I was at in regards to things that are covered, right? Now, what do you think? Actually, let's do covered. Oops. I think covered sounds better. All right, so what would we put in the not covered? Can anybody tell me? What do you think they would not cover? Anybody? So here's the thing. Roommates fraud, floods. It's not going to cover your roommate's stuff either, right? It'll cover yours, but it's not going to cover your roommate. Your roommate's going to have their own insurance. Earthquakes, absolutely. Natural disasters, right, are generally covered under the homeowners or property owners policy. Here's one. What happens if you are parked at your apartment and your car gets broken into or stolen? Is that covered? What does it say? Your car gets stolen, would it be covered by your renter's insurance? It's not, right? So at that, you would have to go with your car insurance. Even though it's parked at your rental house, rental apartment, rental townhome, it's not covered under your rental insurance. Undocumented items. So here's the thing. When you get rental insurance, even in homeowners insurance, you have to itemize. You have to say, this is the stuff I have. This is what I have in electronics, in jewelry, in kitchenware, furniture. You actually have to tell them what you have and give them a generalized idea of what's in there. And then jewelry, it will only go to a certain amount, and then you have to add extra claims on that for your jewelry. But if you don't have that stuff, you don't have a way of proving that you had it, your insurance company might think that you were trying to fraudulently file a claim. So you have to be very careful about that. Like they said before, your roommate's belongings, they're not going to be covered. A short-term rental like Airbnb, won't generally, your renter's insurance won't cover you on that. Damage from pests. So extermination costs will not be covered. That's basically considered your landlord's responsibility. Mold is generally not covered under renter's insurance. It's generally covered under your landlord's insurance. Pet damage, and here's the thing, if you have a pet and they damage the house, not only will your renter's insurance not cover it, but you could be out a lot of money with your landlord because you're going to have to pay to have that all fixed, and they can fine you for that. Okay. Most property damage to the physical home is not covered. Okay. So if we go to what things that are covered or not covered, so they will not reimburse you for every event related to your coverages. So only certain events actually are covered. Fixtures and appliances that come with the rental unit are excluded because they are your landlord's problem. Cars and other vehicles aren't covered, even if they were parked or stored on the rental property when they were damaged or stolen. So those are like the three big ones, right? I mean, you could also put in there, roommates, property, stuff like that, right? Can you think of anything else we need to add to that? All right, so the last part of this, it asks you, should you get renter's insurance? Why or why not? Explain in 3 to 4 sentences. So can you guys tell me if you should or should not and why? Who says yes, you should get renter's insurance? And if you want, you can do one of the little reactions. But if you think we should get it, give me one of the reactions. It could be the heart. It could be the thumbs up. It could be the... Okay, so Brett and America are saying yes. What about the rest of you guys? You're making me feel like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? So William, you don't think you should get renter's insurance? Okay, so here's the thing to think about. What do you have? Okay. If you have expensive televisions, computers, gaming systems, things like that, that if somebody were to break in and could cart off, then that might be something you want to think about. If everything is a hand-me-down and you don't have anything expensive in your house, then maybe not so much. Now, I will let you know, even though they're like, oh, it's up to you, today, right now, as of 2020, most rental properties in the state of Nevada require you to have rental insurance. And if you don't buy your own rental insurance, then you have to buy through the property management company or rent, whatever, the rental insurance. So keep that in mind. The question says, should you or shouldn't you, and you decide, but keep in mind today, more and more, it's becoming absolutely, you have to have it now. Okay. So I said you may not have an option of not getting renter's insurance, as most properties demand that you have it or pay for their insurance. Oh, excuse me. Renter's insurance is much like car insurance. where you pay monthly in case something were to happen in the future. If you have expensive electronics and or jewelry, it is definitely worth having in case of theft, right? But if you don't, then maybe you don't need it. Any questions on this? All right. So do any of you guys have any questions on any of the ones that we have done in here, since we have now completed 1 through 14, with the exception we didn't do 6 or 7. We're going to do that separately. Are there any of these past questions that you, like any of the past ones that we have done, any of the tasks that we have done, do any of you guys have any questions on those? America, you're good? Okay. So is everybody ready to turn in their task worksheet? No? What do you need to finish? Brett? And I appreciate you being honest with me on that. Well, you're not ready yet either. Okay. Oh, that you don't have questions. Okay. All right. So you guys are all good. There's none of these you need me to refresh, remind, help you go through, discuss. All right. So here's what you guys are going to do for the rest of the class period. It's 1:02 now. We have like 15 minutes left in class. You are either going to work on your EverFi Financial Literacy Module 6. What's restricted for you? Well, I know NerdWallet isn't. That was approved. And I still haven't gotten a response back about Target or Walmart, because some kids are actually able to access it. So I don't know if he's trying to figure out why some are and some aren't. But then you'll just have to use a different store besides Walmart or Target, or maybe do it on your phone. Okay. So here's the deal. We are now through Module 6 in the EverFi Financial Literacy course, right? That's 6 modules, actually 7, because we had the tax simulations. And we have now, since last week and in class, we have completed all of the tasks on the tasks 1 through 14 worksheet on Can I Survive on My Own project. Obviously, we did not do 6 and 7 because those are individual ones. We'll do those starting tomorrow. But that is where we are at. You need to work on your Can You Survive on Your Own project, or you need to work on your EverFi Financial Literacy. Every single item that we have done in Module 11 is a summative grade, meaning it's worth 90% of your grade. So whichever you choose, whether it be the project or the financial literacy, all of them actually need to be completed because they all weigh at 90% of your grade. Can anybody tell me how much is the task worksheet worth? Well, it's 90%, but how many points? Exactly. 113 points. And I have one person who has turned it in this class. Okay. So you guys need to get busy. And yes, we are. Do you guys want me to play the music? Yes? Okay. Before I start the music, I'm going to stop the recording really quickly.